And we back, bitches. Welcome back, everybody. Super excited to show you our first A19 base. As you can probably guess, this is the pit. We've decided to remake our golden oldie to make sure everything holds up for Alpha 19 and that this is still a workable design. I gotta tell you, we've been doing some testing on this. We ran through a couple of ideas, and I am absolutely fucking in love with this thing. It is phenomenal. Take you down, show you the difference here. So it's just another big-ass drop with electric fencing. Even more electric fencing than last time. And we've got the platform. The platform itself is suspended. This time we are 7 blocks off of the hole here, or off of the ground here. So there is just no way demos are going to do anything of substance or damage. They are pretty much fucked. The walls here are concrete, and that's really more for symmetry and aesthetics than anything. If you knock out any one of those given blocks, there's just 10 miles of stone behind them. So it's just a personal preference. You don't have to do anything special. The one thing we've noticed in testing is, as per the last pit base we made, where you stand tends to matter. If you stand in a corner here, or you've got people standing in corners, they like to congregate in the corners of the hole. If you stand in the yellow and green areas, well, then they're going to come to the straight sides here and eventually just drop right down. This is kind of color-coded as to preference. Green is good. Yellow is, you might want to move forward a little bit. If you're in red, you're probably going to make them dig down or do something else stupid. You can see here we've got our generators mounted in the walls for a little bit of safety, but this is a pretty light gas load on any given evening. Take you through our exit tunnel here. Just like last time, we've got a nice little accessible hatchway to get through, and make sure nothing's coming down while we're doing the actual horde night. This isn't too terribly far away, but it's far enough that it'll get us a safe clearance here. Come back outside. You can see we're about yay far, so not too bad. Right underneath the water tower here, because that's safe construction. Coming over here, you might notice there's a slight difference in the actual pit design this time versus the last. Last time we just had the 4x4 hole just sort of dropping straight down from a flat slab. Now, we've heard your complaints about some of the digging that people were encountering. I wasn't able to replicate that, but in some testing I did see that while the ramps and the wedge tips, you can no longer get a guaranteed slide out of anything. There's no way to force them to drop down other than to just drop them down a hole. But you can't, make a ramp or a wedge tip where they're just automatically going to slide down like that. But by building it as a more of a funnel design this time, which is something similar to what I've done with other variations of this in the past. I've had stepped down designs where it was like ramp, step, and gradually went down to a hole. But this, it does a really good job of encouraging them to congregate right here on the lip, which is good for two things. One, it's easier to bait them down because they're just a little bit closer to you, so they're a little bit more eager to get down there to try to get to the meaty snack that is you. And two, it also gives you, with the right rifle, you can actually take some cheesy pot shots here. It's not that difficult to do so. You can see silhouettes and stuff running around up here during the night, so it's easy to take chintzy shots and make some extra stuff fall down the hole. Something you'll notice here versus the last time too is I've ringed the O-ring here, the sphincter, we'll call it, in steel. We have a steel sphincter. This was as a result of these ramps sort of congregating and collapsing everything down right to this lip. I did notice more so than the last variant of this that we had some of these blocks taking some pretty good beatings. When we ran a full demo horde night on this, I'd say about a third of these final ramp blocks here were actually broken out. It's just from them standing on it, they get a little antsy, they knock a block out from underneath them. In all, the damage that was done to this whole funnel structure took me maybe 3 minutes to repair. So it was nothing substantive. It was nothing that demanded a rework, but it could benefit from a little bit of extra toughness. So down here, again, the only legitimate way out of this is to frame walk. If you want to come down here and do your repair your spikes, whatever, you just got to frame bounce your way back up. You can go ahead, you can leave the frames down here. It's nothing special. If they're down here, you just do some wood frames, some iron frames, whatever. They'll just get punched out. But who cares? That's cheap. That's disposable. 3, 4, 5, 6. That is number 6. That is the full duration of a demo blast right there. So you can see the entire platform is not supported by anything underground here, but it's also in no way vulnerable to anything down here. The worst thing that's going to happen is cop spit, and I'll be damned, you'd really have to let him be down here for a while in order for cop spit to take out any one block. That would actually be kind of impressive. I'd like to see that. If any of you guys have pulled that off, a reinforced concrete getting knocked out by the fat guys, that would be kind of fun to watch. Anything you want to do down here is completely up to you. We've gone with just the beta spikes for extra damage as they try to mosey their way out to the wall and you're upstairs shooting at them. But you could line this in mines like we did in the past. You could put some blade traps down here. You could put more electric fencing down here. Whatever you want. It's one of the reasons I love this design so much, is it really is a user, built to fit situation. Once you've got them in that pit, you can do whatever you damn well please to them, and it works like a charm. Now, for the actual usage and drops, what I have seen in this one in testing is we actually got a significantly higher volume of zombies coming down this hole on this version than we did in the last, which is great, especially early on, because we literally ran our first test of this on day 7 at game state. Where are we at now? I'm at 148, so we were around 100, 120, and that extra experience was actually quite nice. We got, I would say, probably 75% of the Zeds throughout the course of the evening. When I went up top, there were only 5 or 6 that I had to clean up in total, which was nice. One interesting note on that is during the course of the evening, we actually had a lot of vultures flying all the way down the hole to come here and get us. That never happened before, so I think what we've seen there is that they've changed some of the vulture pathing, and they've got a little more freedom. They get a little antsier now, a little more adventurous now with the birds to come all the way down a hole like this. But hey, that's cool. That's free XP. And like I was talking about, if you want to get up there and you want to shoot some of the stuff on the edge, what we actually did during testing, because again, we were getting more of the Zeds, but it's still a very controlled flow rate, for lack of a better term. It's very easy to maintain and keep control of the situation when they're dropping into a hole like that. So what I actually had done was taken a couple of frames and put them out here like such, and I was standing out here. Now they were still coming straight down the hole. I think I had one kind of like bounce off the outer edge of one of these boxes once, but it's not that bad. And then I was just sitting down here with a scope, picking them off the hole edges here if they decided they were not going to want to jump. Doing that when their compatriots started dropping dead next to them, oh, that pissed them off something fierce, and then they started coming down in pretty good chunks. So if you get to a point where you feel like you're not getting the sort of traffic you want, or you think there's a lot of them clustering up top by the metal sphincter again, just go ahead and extend yourself out a little bit. You can even, upgrade that if you want. And just take a walk, bring a scope, bring like a ×2, a ×4 with you. Maybe you like the new sniper rifle, you want to go crazy with that and do some damage. Hey, knock yourself out. Again, this is build to suit. You can pretty much get away with any goddamn thing you please with this design. It's great. Now, we have for Season 2, which we are really excited about, decided to revamp some of our grading. The first 2 grades are going to be the same as normal. Supplies needed and build difficulty. For supplies needed, this thing is an A, primarily because it largely pays for itself. By the time you dig this hole all the way down to bedrock, and that is bedrock, you've got more stone than God ever intended, and you have more than enough to do whatever the hell you want down here. If for whatever reason, though, you want to conserve it, use that stone with something else, do whatever, I would have zero qualms about building this base out of anything from cobblestone up. So if you wanted to do cobblestone, if you wanted to do iron, if you wanted to do solid steel, knock yourself out. This will work with any material. I personally like concrete like this just because it's easy to make, and it's a big byproduct we get out of a lot of the other things that we're doing, so we always have a metric ass ton of it lying around. So that works for us, but you can build whatever you damn well please. Wood, I wouldn't recommend, because when you start talking about cop spit damage on there, it doesn't take a lot of cop spit to start knocking wood blocks out, so you may want to be careful with that. But past it, hey, it's all you, baby. It's all you. For build difficulty, it's a little bit of a bitch, no lie. It takes a while. It's not difficult, but it's time consuming. I think I started off with this with a pretty shitty auger and got a little better as I was doing it over the course of a few days. This probably took me alone about, we'll call it 4 to 5 hours to dig out and really finish off and build. So build difficulty is more of a C, but that's not because it's difficult or tricky or it's a complicated design. That's because it's time consuming. Now, maybe you're going to come down here, you're going to cheese yourself out with a hammer, or you're going to, you're going to run the super digger and just SMG yourself a big hole. I mean, that'll take you 20 minutes at that point. But if you're going to build it legitly, while I recommend everything about this design, I absolutely love this design, I will say if you're going to do it, you've got to be prepared. Especially if you're playing a legit game, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you've got friends to maybe have some people on like food duty, making sure that there's enough food and water stock so you can stay down here digging, and they're just doing the Grubhub thing and delivering supplies to you while you're down here breaking your ass on stone. We've had that work in the past. Division of labor can be a really helpful thing for a design like this because your ass is going to be in this hole for a while. One important note, and I did in the last time we posted a pit base, ran into some people in the comments who were running into issues, and I took a tour and I got some photos of people's builds. I actually went and visited a couple of people on their server and took a look at what they were doing. And one thing I saw more than once was people were trying to do things like mount blade traps in these holes, or even put torches on these holes, or any kind of thing that would, they were looking maybe for the light to light the Zeds on fire, or chop them up a little bit, maybe do some spikes stuck to the walls down here, get some free damage. Theoretically that works. The problem comes in whenever you give them anything that they can cling to on the sides. And if there's so much as a torch stuck to the wall of this tube, these assholes can actually balance on that. It's kind of cheesy. I'm not a big fan of that mechanic, but it is what it is. So when you do build this tube, I recommend leaving it as slick and as lubed up as possible, because you want these guys to slide straight down with absolutely nothing obstructing their drop. So we've got a big horde night coming up. We're going to have a 4-man running tonight's build. No lie, Davian, rip Davian's PC. We'll get a little taps playing for that one. He's having some pretty serious computer issues. It sounds like his equipment took a pretty big power hit. And the more we hear from him, the more it turns out that more and more components in his rig are fried. So hopefully he doesn't have to rebuild his entire machine, but, pour one out for Davian. Yeah, hopefully we've got him back in at least another week or two. It's not too long. I'm really looking forward to this too, especially with the new grading criteria. We're going to run through some of these as we do the actual grading. The big thing to keep in mind for tonight's first test in Season 2, though, is we are actually, unlike what we've done in the past, we are going to start from here out limiting ourselves on ammo. No one will have more than 5,000 rounds on them. That may sound like a lot sort of at the top. If you're looking 4 or 5 people, that's 25,000 rounds. One, if you've watched some of the shitter things we've built, you know that that's nothing. And we can regularly burn through 20,000 rounds on a bad design without even breaking a sweat. 2, in order to standardize this and make it a little fairer, we're actually going to start hard grading the ammunition grade and the resources grade based on how much this is consuming. So, for example, if we have 5 people running the test, if the base uses less than 5,000 rounds in ammo for the night, that's an automatic A. If it's between 5 and 10, that's B. If it's between 10 and 15, that's C. Up and up and up until we get to 20,000 rounds, where we've decided that 20,000 and up is a hard F. If any design uses more than 20,000 rounds, that's a fail, guaranteed. Now, if we get to the point where we have all used up our 5,000 rounds, we are no longer going to ditch and run to a base that works. What we're actually going to do is duke that shit out. And we're going to see if we can't make any one of these designs go for it. Because when it comes to things like the shack, when it comes to things like the Wedge Tip 2.0 base, where we saw catastrophic failures in design, we've decided that it's just not fair to not have to sort of see the end results of that sort of failure. So if things go really tits up, if any one build really just shits the bed, we are going to stand there and punch our way out of that horde night. And I think that's going to result in some interesting footage. I think we're going to see some unique moments come out of all of that, if nothing else. So, horde night's coming up. We're going to get everybody plowed in here, and let's see how this shit does. I could not be more excited to see how this performs with the cameras rolling. Here we are, down at the bottom of the hole, minus the Davian. You'd be surprised at the the ease at which I coaxed 3 men to crawl into my hole. It was kind of disturbing, actually.
And one of them is all hot pink.
Well, he likes to party.
I'm flashing you right now.
I see that.
I'm gonna go ahead and walk out here and see if I can't get a view on somebody. Put a couple of rounds out there, try to bait him. Alright, I got an eyeball on some traffic up there, sort of, briefly.
Everybody stand in the green.
Here we go. Derp.
Zip.
So, fun fact on this one. What we actually noticed, yeah, on our first night of testing, is that a decent percentage of them will fall,
Oh, hey, demo, we're up
hit the power lines for, 21 gigawatts, and then vanish into the stone. So our working theory is that they have literally traveled through time.
Bye.
Gigawatts!
Oh, she missed the electric.
Hard to do, but not impossible. He fell into the floor.
He bounced.
He's a fatty. Dear, dear. This shit never gets old. I love this base so much.
The speed with which they accelerate down this tunnel.
Oh my god, it absolutely is them hitting 88 miles an hour. They hit that ground at Mach 5 and just...
Was this pit designed by CERN? I mean, Jesus Christ.
I'm just smashing particles.
No, but
together.
Akiva may
See
get a
what's gonna
phone
happen.
call after this.
Oh, can we pop fatty?
It turns around the right direction. Nope, he dead.
Oh, no, there he goes.
There he goes, there he
There
goes,
he
there he
goes.
goes. And you'll see, he took out a bunch of spikes, obviously, but that is it. Nothing else is remotely damaged. Fuck you, buddy. You got nothing to do down there except die.
I don't know about you guys, but I am loving these new deagles.
Oh yeah, this is a fantastic weapon. Not a big fan of this new sniper rifle, but the Deagle more than makes up for it. Hopefully they fix the red dot issues on the tactical at some point. If they do, you'll see me carrying a lot of that. I'm surprised actually, because the first night we did this test on this base, because I ran a full horde night test, and we got a lot of vultures coming down the hole, which was strange, but it didn't seem to be duplicated on that either.
Another
Hey,
one.
See you
they
in Left 4
changed
Dead.
the way the vultures respond too. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
How so? I hadn't seen it
They
specifically.
will, on horde nights especially, they'll track you at like 700% of your movement speed.
Oh yeah, that wasn't a patch notes. Like they'll outrun vehicles now. I remember that.
Yeah. So you can't just gyrocopter around on a horde night. They're gonna knock you out of them.
That's fun.
What did that break?
That
One of
broke
the,
some electric fence posts.
Oh,
yeah.
it did.
Oh, the spit did it, huh? That sucks.
No.
Yep.
You got
That's
any
a
fence posts on
lucky
you?
shot.
I wasn't actually around when you built this. Is this just suspended by these pillars, or what
Yep,
did you do here?
suspended by the pillars and the connection to the wall.
Okay.
There is nothing underneath this that supports it at all.
Same thing with the hole itself.
So when you're lining this guy just landed on my little cheater frames. That is actually an important
fucker.
point. When you're lining the hole with concrete, what you don't want to do, or any material, is just stick the blocks to the side of a stone hole. That is inherently fairly unstable when it gets to be this long. What you want to do, and there's probably 100 of them distributed down the length of that hole, is actually at random intervals drill in 2 or 3 blocks and put these little like mounting pegs on the wall so that your concrete weight is dispersed throughout the depth of that hole. It's not just a concrete plate glued to the side of the stone. You want to actually have that weight distribution integrated into the rock a little bit.
And that's science for the cave, everybody.
Yeah, right. It does help it. When I ran Ver like back in 16, I had some early tests on some concepts for this, and what I had happen on more than one occasion was entire sheets, entire like sides of this column, just sliding down the hole when it took some damage. Like if you knocked out enough of those blocks, the whole thing would sort of lose its adhesion and just drip right off the side of the wall.
So what you're saying is you need to continually peg the hole.
Yes. That is exactly what I'm saying. It is
I
happening
knew
for
that was
a
gonna
fact.
show eventually.
88 miles an hour!
Anybody doing any digging that you can see?
Not digging per se, but they are certainly congregated. You know what? Just for science and the sake of this video, let's go. I'm gonna go up top and take a peek here. I'm gonna take a hit on the wires. Leave them on. Merp. That hurts. Let's go see what they're actually doing up here, if anything. We'll get a night in progress view. So they're up here on the steel sphincter. They're unhappy about it. They're gradually falling down, but as you can see, they haven't done much in the way of damage to the funnel here. It's all pretty intact. There's no major issues. Bunch of vultures trying to chase me down here now. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, there's a lot of them up here. They're pissed off, and they are gradually filtering down the hole.
They're not digging on anything?
Not so far. That fat electrified bitch landed right on my face.
Sounds like a good Friday night.
You know, you'd think so, but then I got a good look at her. I don't have enough beers in me to make that worthwhile.
It would take a lot of effort. Maybe not a lot of effort, but it'd be pretty funny to, you know, comment about them, you know, going too fast, electrified, and then, you know, disappearing, and then cut to like a different game and have it show up.
Right.
Okay, just FYI, a zombie just saved your life.
Oh?
In a way. I was about to put a bolt in your face, and as soon as I pulled the trigger, a zombie came flying by and took it.
I mean, that wouldn't do dick.
I know, but just saying.
Get down,
The idea
Mr.
of it.
President!
Exactly. Dodge, dive. Oh, God. Can't touch me. Uh-oh.
Duel's just playing
Dodge,
keep away down
duck,
there.
dip, dive, and dodge.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Boy, if you like the idea of
Is that
us
all you
using
got?
one of our party members as bait, do we have a base for you coming up?
There's a vulture coming down.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, let's go back up.
Remind me again why I hang out with you guys.
I like how you just knew right out the gates that you were going to be the bait.
Well, based upon last season, he is the tastiest member.
It's true.
Zombies
Is that a porno?
You beat me to it.
If not,
Xavier
it will be
in
after our video.
the tastiest member. Waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka. Alright, there's the bell.
Let's see what
Biker
kind
down
of
here.
things drag.
Are there any final Zeds to, I think we're pretty clear here.
Has anybody seen Duel?
Yeah, oh shit.
Actually kicked him out of the game!
88 miles an hour! Somebody go log into Halo, see if he's in there. And there's a needy duel.
Oh, what happened?
Where the fuck have you been?
Where the fuck you go?
What year is it?
What year is it? The worst year. Go back. Let's see what's down here. So we've got one block kind of pinged up. The rest are mildly scratched, but everything down here, I mean, the spike traps ate shit, but the spike traps are designed to eat shit, so I could care less. The wall's in great shape. No broken blocks or anything here. We're fine. We had some lucky cops take out a portion of the electric fences, which is annoying, but oh well. There was still
That's
plenty of
easy
it
to
up
repair.
and running. Yeah, that is easy enough to repair. Half of the wiring that's gone is gone because some of them are missing. These poles are all still intact, minus that one. So we're good there. Going up, the tube is in great shape. There's hardly any damage in here. Nothing really visible. The top is in phenomenal shape. They didn't break a single block here. They managed to strip the steel plating off of the 4 of them here. But other than that, everything is intact. This is holding up remarkably well. I have 0 complaints. So, for the first grade on durability, this thing is slightly scratched. This will buff out. I've bought cars in worse shape than this. So, I'm going to give this an A on durability. This took fuck all for damage. Are the players in danger? 0 danger. There is no goddamn
Unless you're
danger
dual.
here. Well, unless you're dual. But otherwise, if you play this straight, you are never going to be even remotely threatened. So that is another hard A. There's no player danger involved here at all. Resources used. Now, we didn't use any gas or I'm sorry, we didn't use any dart traps or junk turret ammo, so we're clear there. In terms of gas, total we used a little under 40 there. And that got kind of blown out early, and then a little under 70 there. So we're at slightly over 100 gas. We'll call it 115 gas, rounding a little bit. That is a hard A. That is another hard A. 115 gas is dick. That's enough. Ammunition. Now here's the one where I mentioned earlier we're going to apply a slightly different grading metric for Season 2. Now because there's 4 of us, that means each of our letter tier grades is going to be based on a score of 4,000. So if we use under 4,000, it's an A. Under 8,000, it's a B, etc. Now, ammo total, for me personally, I used a complete total of 634 rounds. X, how much did you burn?
I burned 714.
714. Neverwin?
1,293.
293. And Duel?
453.
That gives us a grand total of 3,094 rounds used for the evening, which is a hard A by our new scale. Fantastic. I couldn't be happier with that. 3,000 rounds. And that's, a lot of that's kind of optional. A lot of that's redundant with, I'm sure, several of us shooting the same Zed simultaneously down in the pit there. So there's definitely room to even improve that if you're more conscientious about it than we were. 3,000 rounds is a great score for a base like this at our game state. For the cheese grade, I don't really see any cheese here. This is ramps. There's no wedge tips. They kind of have to be goaded into going down the hole, and then they fall down a hole and get shot in the face.
Baked potato?
Baked potato. Chances of being patched out. It hasn't been. It's a hole in the ground. I don't know how you'd patch out a hole in the ground.
This is basically the same concept we did in our very first video for Alpha 18, and it still works.
Yeah, this is still holding water. Even broken down into individual components, you're above the demo man radius, or there's electric fencing. Even if you stripped out the individuals, none of them, I think, are worthy of getting kicked out or patched out in any regard. So I think this is definitely going to be a safe concept for at least all of Alpha 19, which we just started, so you've got a while on this one.
In reality, we have had variations of similar concepts as far back as, Alpha 15, 16?
Further back, yeah.
So this concept has been around a while. It's just no one was talking about it for the longest time.
Hell's Anus was A14, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Was it that far back?
I think that was in 14. That was one where I did a flaming hole, and that's where I learned about some of the torches and some of the changes that have been made there. I don't recommend doing the flaming hole anymore, but that was an early pit design that we worked on. You mentioned flaming holes, and here comes Duel. Now, for the scorecard recap, running down the whole line to determine the final grade. For supplies needed, we had an A. For build difficulty was a C. Durability was an A. Zed control was an A. Resources used was an A. Ammo used was an A. And chances of being patched out, none. I think when you average that out, you get an A. There's nothing really dragging this base idea back. I think this is a great build for Alpha 19. You can get started on this right away. We did. Oh, yeah. And if you want to get clever with it, you could take any part of this. We've got our escape hatch down here. There is nothing in the world that says once you're done here, you come and you start digging out from this tunnel and you make your final complete living quarters down here. There's nothing to stop you from doing the mole man route and just living underground. You're very safe at that point, and your Horde Knight base then is 5 feet away without actually endangering any of your stuff. If you go back 50 yards and go nuts, you'd be in great shape. This base idea is my baby, and I'm very happy to know that my baby has survived into 19. So coming up, we have...
So Akiva likes holes? Is that what I hear?
Akiva does like holes. What can I say? I'm a holes guy. Coming up, we have... Oh god, what? Like 8 other bases built already specifically for testing? We've got the one where we're going to use X as live bait, which I think is going to be fun. And I know that there's some,
Fun.
I'm going to say, interesting, in quote marks, attempts for people to rekindle the killing corridor, which, yeah, okay. We've got a few of those lined up to test and see if they're actually going to hold water in real Horde Night conditions, so you're going to want to stick around for that. And, of course, Nev has been hard at work creating his next fur-based atrocity that I don't want to talk about because it's gross and it makes me sad.
The Frontier Wilderness Adventure Watchtower.
The first episode of X's Mental Mayhem is designed and ready, and it's going to be hilarious.
Oh, God, here we go.
You ready to be in the mine for a year, buddy?
Duel's just lighting people on fire. Kill it with fire! So we can call this one a win for the day, and we got plenty more coming up on the horizon. As always, we appreciate you guys watching, and we will catch you next time.